I have never met anyone who has come to Jerusalem and didn't have the most vivid experiences. I first came here as a reporter in 1967, right after the Israeli army had captured the old city from the Jordanian army during the Six-Day War. I couldn't begin to tell you everything there is to know and to believe about the power and the mystery of this very small place. What we can do, I hope, by telling you a few Jerusalem stories is to tell you what it is really like to be in love with this place. Because for so many people in the world, Jerusalem is irresistible. In the beginning, around 5,000 years ago, that is, there was a small village in a valley. The people, they were the Jebusites, probably settled here to produce olive oil, which they sold to the Egyptians. About 3,000 years ago, Jerusalem was conquered by the Jewish king David, who made it his religious capital. If you look at an old map, you can see why, as the centuries passed, Jerusalem became important. It was the capital of the land the Romans called Palestina, or Palestine. It was right on the trade routes to so many other places. Every ancient king and conqueror wanted Jerusalem, and nearly every army in the ancient world and some in the modern world has made its presence known here. Jerusalem has been conquered and reconquered 23 times. In order, it has come under Egyptian, ancient Jewish, Babylonian, Persian, Greek, Syrian, Armenian, Roman, Byzantine, Muslim, Crusader, Turkish, British, Jordanian, and now it is under modern Israeli rule. As soldiers and merchants passed through here down through the centuries, they heard the powerful ideas of Jerusalem's prophets and philosophers, among them King Solomon, Isaiah, and Jesus. Today, most of our ideas about morality and law and God can be traced to Jerusalem. The walls of the city are now surrounded by a modern Arab and Israeli metropolis. Only about 30,000 people live inside here, and it only takes about 15 minutes to walk from one end of the old city to the other. But we have focused on the old city because what happens here has always had such a powerful impact on the rest of the world.
Absolutely not.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely yes.
They said
Why did the Arabs kill us?
Absolutely.
Today in the old city, Palestinians and Israelis struggle for control.
Expelled from all Arabic countries. After 1948, the Jews were...
This is an encounter between a Palestinian Muslim and two Israeli Jews.
7 Jews were killed by Arabs
Can I...
in Hebron. In 29.
The Jewish men are living in houses that belonged to the Palestinians' family before the 1967 Arab-Israeli War.
Because you want to hear what you want to hear.
Are you telling me
I want to say
everything?
what I want to say. You want to hear what you want to hear, but not what I want to say.
It is the kind of fierce circular argument over God and history and real estate that erupts time and again.
You are here because God wants you to be here.
True.
And He wants us to be out.
No.
God.
No, he wants...
In a city where people with passionate competing claims live literally on top of one another.
You're not following my line of logic.
Listen to me.
You don't want to...
Listen to me.
We are now standing in what is the very modern Jewish quarter, which overlooks the Jewish Wailing or the Western Wall. And above it there is the Muslim Dome of the Rock, which is the third holiest shrine in all of Islam. And so the Muslim quarter is over there. And right over here is the Christian quarter. Those domes are the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, built where Christians believe that Christ was crucified and buried and then rose again from the dead. This is a place where people carry grudges. This is a place where they still argue about events that go back as far as 4,000 years. One of the oldest Jerusalem stories is the Abraham incident.
What actually happened in the beginning of the incident is that The angels were looking down at God's favoritism of Abraham. And the angels said, well, he's a nice guy and he does what you ask him, only if it's convenient.
Listen to how Rabbi Moshe Schloss, originally from Brooklyn, talks about what he calls the Abraham incident, as though he knows Abraham, the man God asked to kill his son.
God says to him, I want you to take your son and bring him, and I'll tell you when and where. You just keep walking.
In Jerusalem, everybody adores Abraham. 4,000 years ago, in the Abraham era, people worshipped many idols and gods. Abraham was the first to declare that there was only one God. His one God put Abraham's faith to a famous test.
He was told by God at that point to go to the Mount Moriah, which was in Jerusalem, and to offer his son up for a sacrifice in that place. He tied up Isaac, hand and foot, and put him on an altar, and was about to cut his throat. And an angel comes to him and says, enough.
By offering his own son to God, Abraham had passed the test. Abraham is recognized as the first real Jew.
وإذ ابتلى إبراهيم ربه بكلمات فأتمهن. God Almighty examined Abraham.
And because Muslims also believe that Abraham passed God's test, he is also revered as the first Muslim.
He passed the exam with honor degree, excellent honor degree. فأتمهن. Then he was offered the prophecy. God Almighty says, قال إني جاعلك للناس إماما. Listen, I appointed you as a leader in human being, in humanity.
In Jerusalem, people of all three religions are always telling the story of Abraham. But because this is a Jerusalem story, there is disagreement about the details. Abraham had 2 sons by 2 women. So which son did Abraham take to sacrifice on the mountaintop? The Jews say it happened here in Jerusalem on the place they call the Temple Mount. They say the son was Isaac and that they are descended from him. The Muslims say that Abraham was prepared to sacrifice his older son, Ishmael, and that his descendants are the Arabs. Muslims also say that it didn't happen in Jerusalem, but in the Arabian desert, where eventually Islam began. When Arabs and Jews talk about their conflict today, they like to say it started with Isaac and Ishmael. Incidentally, Christians agree with Jews about which son Abraham offered, but they say that it actually happened here, in the very same place that Jesus was crucified, in what is now the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And what can historians tell us? They're not sure that Abraham existed at all. The Western Wall in Jerusalem, the only remnant of a great Jewish temple destroyed by the Romans almost 2,000 years ago. Jews believe the site where the temple once stood is the place nearest to heaven that a person on earth can be.
Shomer Israel.
At the heart of the Jewish religion is the belief that when this world ends, it will happen here in Jerusalem. For centuries, Jews have come here to pray and wait for that moment when the Messiah, sent by God to rebuild the temple, will usher in an era of peace.
God said and designated this is a spot we'll meet forever.
This is the soul of the universe. We're standing right in the middle of it right now.
For 30 years, Rabbi Schloss has been waiting. Do you really believe in the Messiah?
I live the Messiah.
To talk to Rabbi Schloss is to understand what draws the most devout Jews here. He truly believes the Messiah is on his way.
We can hear him walking. We can smell his presence. We're holding now at the birth pangs of the Messiah.
Do Jews really believe that the temple should be rebuilt there again?
The whole purpose of creation of the entire universe is for the rebuilding of the everlasting temple, which will bring peace to mankind till the end of time.
So what do you do about the fact that the Dome of the Rock is over there at the moment?
At the moment, that's there, and that's what it's supposed to be there. And when the time comes and God so decides to shuffle things around and give everyone what's coming to them, then everyone will be happy with their share.
Mashiach, Mashiach, Messiah, Messiah. In his house, here in the Jewish quarter of the Old City, Rabbi Schloss sings to his youngest children in Hebrew, the language of the Jewish prophets. This vision of the coming Messiah is one that Jews have passed from parent to child for generations. As we have already said, Jewish prophecy declares that when the Messiah comes, he will come to Jerusalem. Jerusalem at this moment seen from across the small valley of Kidron. We're actually on the Mount of Olives. Picture the scene if you can 2,000 years ago. It is the Jewish holiday of Passover. Jews who can get here have come here to celebrate their escape from Egypt. Remember, this is a Jewish city, even though it is under Roman military occupation. It is quite tense at the time because Jews have used these high holidays in the past to demonstrate against the Roman authorities. One of the Jews who comes here, and he stops first on the Mount of Olives, is Jesus of Galilee. He looks down at the city and he says, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets and stone those who are sent to thee." We have no idea if Jesus had any inkling of what was to befall him, but he then gets on a donkey and rides down across the valley of Kidron towards the Old City. When he was arrested in Jerusalem, Jesus was 33 years old.
I think he was perceived as rather shy, retiring, gentle. And this offended some people because they thought, believing himself to be the Messiah, he should be a warlike macho type.
So Jesus would have been taken from here where?
This would have been the starting point, then they would have gone...
If you go looking for Jesus in Jerusalem, Father Jerry Murphy O'Connor makes an interesting guide. He's a scholar who spent 33 years here, and he's investigated what really happened to Jesus on the day that he was crucified. We've all seen the famous scenes, at least in the movies, of Christ being walked through the streets of Jerusalem. What do you think it was really like?
You see, the beam would have been strapped to his shoulders, you see? So you can't actually...
Almost 2,000 years have passed since that day.
And people were invited to give you a knee in the groin, a fist in the kidneys, an elbow in the face. This was torture.
And yet, in the streets of Jerusalem, Father O'Connor can make it seem like yesterday.
Yeah, and then, of course, when you can't see the steps, you fall. And if your arms are strapped back, you can't protect your face.
And it would have been a piece of work for Jesus to get through something like this.
Yes, you see, especially if there were crowds pushing in on him from either side. You see, this is not very
He's like
high.
this.
And he's like this. You see, he certainly couldn't fit if there were any other people. So then he would have to shuffle sideways.
As we walked and talked about this event that has encouraged millions of people to come to Jerusalem ever since, we encountered not a single Christian pilgrim, even though Father O'Connor and other scholars agree that this is the actual route that Christ would have taken. The official way of the cross, the one with the 14 stations and all the souvenirs, is on the other side of town. So the actual route that people take today with their tour guides is not the route that Jesus walked.
No. Oh, it's a development that goes back to a pilgrim route in the Middle Ages, particularly in the 14th century, because it was Muslim occupation. The Christians went where they could go and where they were permitted to go.
The place that Jesus died and was buried is now enclosed by the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. After Jesus' crucifixion, his followers took his body to a simple rock tomb in the quarry just a few yards away. This is what the sepulchre, the Latin word for tomb, has become. So he disappeared from here.
Yes, he rose from the dead. And I think it's a fact. They found an empty tomb, and since no one had the body, I mean, then it was simply a logical conclusion. He must have risen as he promised us.
And that was then what gave strength and confidence to a tiny little movement and made it expand throughout the whole of the ancient world.
For Christians, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is the center of their spiritual world, and it's a very controversial piece of real estate. There is something about Jerusalem which accentuates religious jealousy. The 6 Christian communities here are fighting with each other all the time over every inch of space, every inch, that is, and every imagined slight. The Greek Orthodox have the most space. They really consider themselves the landlords here. The Armenians came as pilgrims originally 17 centuries ago. The Catholics came here 1,000 years ago as crusaders. These are the 3 groups that have all the say in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. They've assigned the Syrians and the Egyptian Copts to share a tiny space over behind the tomb. And the Ethiopian Copts have a small chapel beside the courtyard. And the Ethiopians live in a monastery up on the roof. The notion of Christian charity gets some pretty rough treatment around here.
We have the history of...
When the center of the world gets too crowded, the Greek Orthodox Metropolitan Timothy likes to go up on the roof. Why is there so much animosity in Jerusalem between all the faith?
We have a religious saying that where is sanctity, devil always tries to provoke people.
Where there is sanctity, the devil always
tries to
provoke people.
To provoke people.
But it is not the devil at work for these people. You can see that the experience of touching the stones which Jesus is said to have touched transports so many of them. During Easter week, local Christians and pilgrims from all over come to Jerusalem to relive Jesus' last days here. Everyone does it a little differently. There are 6 different reenactments of the Last Supper, after which Jesus washed his disciples' feet. The Greeks use water. The Copts use soap and water and olive oil. The Ethiopians use grape leaves. The Armenians use butter. The Catholics have their own funeral for Jesus. The climax is the Holy Fire service, which commemorates Jesus rising from the dead. Everyone gathers at the Holy Sepulchre. In the darkened church, the Greek patriarch steps out of the tomb with a flame said to be lit miraculously by God. It is the most joyful moment of the year. And there they are, pushing and shoving each other again. The Ethiopians dance on the roof. There are 7 entrances or gates to the Old City. Each one of them has very special meaning. This is one of the most beautiful and certainly one of the busiest. It is called the Damascus Gate, and it leads us directly into the Muslim quarter. Muslims tell us that 600 years after Christ was born here, an Arabian businessman named Muhammad, who in his travels had been in contact with both Christianity and Judaism, had a series of what he took to be revelations from God, which when they were finally written down became Islam's divine scripture, the Quran. That sound is the call to prayer. 5 times a day the Muslims hear the call and they are supposed to stop what they are doing and submit themselves to God as taught them in the earliest days of Islam by Muhammad. He would become the prophet Muhammad, and he said that what was revealed through him came from the same God worshipped by Christians and Jews. Muhammad taught his first followers to pray towards Jerusalem. Today they pray towards Mecca in Saudi Arabia, and there's virtually no mention of Jerusalem in the Quran. But it has always held a very special place in Islam's spiritual landscape. For Muslims, the centerpiece of the old city here is the Haram al-Sharif, and especially the Dome of the Rock. Muhammad is said to have fallen asleep one night and been transported here with the angel Gabriel, and then made a very famous night journey to heaven, rising from the rock itself. These buildings, meant to express the simplicity of Islam, were built over the rock by Muhammad's successors, who captured Jerusalem during the time when Islam was spreading throughout much of the world. What we know today as the Muslim quarter of the old city grew up within the sound of the mosque. Arrive at any home off the narrow streets of the Muslim quarter and they will offer you coffee, practically before they ask you why you're there. So many people here think that you cannot have a civilized conversation without coffee. Black, a bit sweet, with a touch of spice. I hated coffee when I first came to the Middle East years ago, but you had to drink it. No coffee, no conversation. We had come to call on Walid Kutani and his wife in the Muslim quarter. They are one of the oldest families in Jerusalem. We simply asked what the city meant to them, and it came pouring out.
For us, we are like fish in the sea. Outside Jerusalem, we die. Jerusalem is our spirit. It's our soul.
A neighbor, Ali Klebo, translated for us.
People in Jerusalem are good, infinitely good. There's so much goodness here. We are all one family. There's a tenderness in Jerusalem.
The Kutani family has been here for 8 centuries.
They came to protect, as custodians to the holy sites.
Ali Klebo's family came here 1,300 years ago with the Muslim conquest.
What they did, they would give the Friday sermons. They maintained the Dome of the Rock. Some families would have the honor of cleaning the floors outside it.
Palestinian families are always pulling out old deeds to their homes because the technicalities of ownership in the old city have become very important. From almost any roof, you can see what the Muslims fear. The Israeli flags represent places where Jewish groups, most all of them zealous nationalists, have managed to gain a foothold by moving into houses in this Muslim part of town. Down on the streets, Israeli border guards back up the Jewish settlers. There is tension and sometimes confrontation between them and their Palestinian neighbors. In a confrontation at the Dome of the Rock, 3 Muslim men were shot and killed by Israeli border police last year. This year, 2 Jewish men living here were shot on the street. One of them died. The survivor says their attackers were Palestinian.
We're afraid every time this is our last year in Jerusalem, and they might throw us away. And we're afraid that as we live here, it's running away from us, the city. We are losing it.
Most of the people Walid Kutani grew up with have moved out of the old city. Now he cannot tell what even the next year will bring. Trying to talk about it makes him cry.
Every Palestinian feels Jerusalem is his. But then there is us, who live in the old city, who cry at the idea that it will not be ours. It will not be ours because when we walk in the streets, it will not be the people we love that are in it. It's the people, not the faces we know, and it's not the feelings we have now for each other.
This old city, Mrs. Kuteni says, is my soul. If I lose this old city, then I will die. God forbid, don't say such things, says Ali Klebo's mother. Jerusalem will stay for us and our children and grandchildren because God is stronger than anyone. When you come upon the Jewish quarter, you notice how modern it is. It climbs a hillside overlooking the Western Wall. The Israelis rebuilt this neighborhood after they won the old city from the Jordanians in the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. Only about 2,000 Jews live here in the old city, but those who do are intensely proud of the new Jerusalem they are helping to build. 2,000 years ago, this was the neighborhood of the Jewish high priest. In the 70th year after Jesus was born, the city was destroyed by the Romans. And those Jews who were not killed were sent into exile. Today, when Jews talk about returning to Jerusalem, it is always about returning home.
Jerusalem means so much to the Jewish people. To us, history is different from most other people, I find. It's not so much stories that are written down, but memories that are handed down from generation to generation.
20 years ago, when Theo Siebenberg said he wanted to excavate for history, beneath his house here, Israeli archaeologists told him and his wife Miriam they would find nothing. Engineers said their home would collapse. Theo decided to dig anyway. And he found what he says are the ruins of a 2,000-year-old Jewish house.
Over there, we have huge stones from 2,000 years ago. And this place that we are in here now must have been a wing of this huge palace.
Were you surprised when you came upon all this?
Surprised? No, not really. I was told there was nothing here. And I just had this feeling that I was sure that I would find what I was looking for, and I did.
Theo has dreamed of living in Jerusalem since he was a boy, forced to flee Europe with his parents on the eve of the Holocaust during World War II. When he read what the Romans had done to the Jews in Jerusalem 2,000 years earlier, he became determined to make this his home.
The Romans came in and just slaughtered women and children. All the streets were filled with corpses, and the Roman soldiers were walking in blood up to their ankles. Then I realized why I had to come here.
Much of the Siebenbergs' life now revolves around this discovery in their basement. They've turned it into a museum. For Theo and for Miriam, the Jews of yesterday are everywhere.
You know, you walk around Jerusalem and you have the feeling that all the souls of the people who ever lived here are still around you. They envelop you all the time.
It's like the closing of this circle that we and them are together. They actually came back. We came back.
I know two of my classmates who come from there.
From the roof of Ali Klebo's house, he can point out what the Muslims created here during the 13 centuries that they governed Jerusalem. They only ever lost control briefly to the Crusaders, Christians from Europe. You can see the story in the stones. There is a Crusader church steeple on top of a Roman building. When the Muslims recaptured Jerusalem, they put a minaret on top of it. So in that one minaret there, you see at least 3 conquests of Jerusalem, don't you? And across the street, a synagogue, evidence of the Jewish determination to be in this neighborhood.
And this is our unfortunate position. There is no laws, international laws, that protect us to stay in our cities, especially in Jerusalem.
We were talking in the courtyard of Ali Clabo's house in the middle of the Muslim quarter.
Can I interrupt you for a second? In the distance, we hear singing. What are we listening to?
These are Jewish fundamentalists.
We went to the window and we could see a Jewish religious procession right below Ali Clabo's house on its way to the synagogue across the way. A little later, when we left Ali Clabo's house with him for a history lesson over at the Dome of the Rock, the Jewish procession was still going on right outside the door.
How often does this happen?
Whenever they want to make us upset. Well, this is for their holiday. But there's no reason to do it in the heart of the Muslim neighborhood.
As it happened, we were scheduled to meet with the rabbi of this group after the Sabbath to talk with him about Jewish history. But first, we met the rabbi's wife.
Excuse me. He's actually filming this man. He's not Jewish.
It's my house. You are passing by. Let's go.
Your house?
Yes.
So then let him film your house.
This is my house.
It's his neighborhood to it. Yeah, I know. I know, yes.
So you want to have a interview with my husband when you're doing this now in such a bad way? He asked you not to film our group.
Actually, it's a public street. You asked me.
I pretty much knew right then and there that her husband, the rabbi, wouldn't be talking to us on television about history or anything else.
Actually, I didn't even know there was going to be a procession, so you could not have asked me that.
Don't give me baloney. You wouldn't be here if there wasn't going to be a
No,
procession.
actually, I'm doing a history subject here, but it's okay.
It happens so often in Jerusalem. You try to focus on history and you run smack into the here and now. Here and now in the old city, these most militant nationalists frighten even other Israelis who think they are dragging the country in the direction of confrontation with the Arabs rather than accommodation and peace.
Is it that you object to them being in the old city, or
No, it's the way in which it's
the
done.
way in which they behave?
And if they were not making a political statement, they would not do it this way. There's no reason to do it this way. And they could do it in the Jewish quarter without having to come to our neighborhood. Marhaba. Marhaba, habibi.
And you're both liars, so I don't bother. I just ran about 100 meters to tell you to my face. You are a slime bucket.
All of a sudden, there was this man yelling at me that I was a liar and a slime bucket. It turned out he was Avraham Yarmuth, who had broken off from the Jewish procession and caught up with us at the gate to the mosque.
You know what you can tell the people? You know what you can tell America?
You want to
That
film this?
no one, please don't, please don't, please don't.
Why not? You just said you want to tell America.
No, I want to tell you.
Well, here at least, after we talked for a while, was someone willing to explain the militant Jewish presence here. A young American who had emigrated to Israel. A nursery school teacher, it turned out.
What do you think the future of Jerusalem is?
In the long run?
Or in the short run?
In the short run, it's going to be nasty here because nobody's willing to let go. We don't feel like we should have to let go, and they don't feel like they should have to let go. And I don't know specifically what it is that they're saying, and I'll be honest with you, with all due respect and without meaning to offend anybody, I really don't care. We're saying to them, you want to stay here, fine. And you want to practice your religion, fine. And you want to educate your children, fine. And you want all of what you want.
Let me ask you a question.
To become a people.
Let me ask you a
fine.
question.
But we have to draw a line.
You see the guy up there in the dark suit? The guy in the dark suit with the blue tie on?
Yeah.
His name is Ali Clabo.
Okay.
He's a Palestinian. He happens to be a Muslim. His grandparents came here with the Caliph, or his ancestors came here with the Caliph, Omar. Drive out the Byzantines. What do you think his rights are here?
He lost a war. With all due respect, he lost a war. Now, it is our right to say to him, bye, you have no rights here anymore.
Muslims do have the right to control who enters and leaves the mosque once you get past the Israeli police. But when we did get inside, we got a rather cold welcome from our Muslim guide.
Where are we?
We had come here wanting to talk about the glorious past of Islam. But the Muslims were unhappy with us because we'd been talking to Avraham Yarmuth. And as it turned out, now we couldn't interview Ali Clabo here.
We can talk to each other, but we can't talk to you. Okay? Right?
Also, you have to...
Well, I won't remove it. We'll turn them off, is the answer. Okay? Because they've been on all day long. Just turn it off. Here. Good. Okay.
At one point, Ali Clabo tried to tell us about a beautiful old building that his great-grandfather had built on these grounds. Someone radioed, if they do anything wrong, throw them out. So we had lost the interview with the rabbi because we'd had our cameras with a Muslim, Ali Clabo, near the Jewish synagogue. And now we couldn't interview Ali Clabo here because we had been seen talking to a member of the synagogue. So much for the history lessons today.
So we call it Sabil.
As far as we remember, every year, one day during the Holy Week, we sit all the family together doing this.
In the Christian quarter of the Old City, Hanya Sabara, her grandmother and her mother, make the Easter cookies. Some of them represent the crown of thorns Jesus wore on the cross. Others, the sponge soaked in vinegar, offered a thirsty Jesus by a Roman soldier as he hung there. They listen to their favorite Arab singer, Feiruz, sing about the crucifixion. Downstairs, the neighbors are drying chamomile for tea. It is spring in Jerusalem. Hania and her family are Palestinian Christians.
If you stop for a minute and think, you will find out that we are the roots of the Christians all over the world. The real Christians started here. We are those.
The family worships at St. Saviour's, the local Catholic church. Hanya directs the choir. Hanya and her husband Ehab grew up together and got married here. To stay in the Old City, they live in a house with her parents and 4 sisters. They're afraid that if they ever leave the city, the Israelis will revoke their right to live here again. This is her father, Isa.
I'm a Christian Roman Catholic.
Isa's an accountant at a meat company in the Old City.
And I'm proud to be a Palestinian Arab. All the world knows that the Arabs are Muslims. No, Arabs are both sides, Christians and Muslim living together here in this area.
Isa believes that his family must descend from the very early converts from Judaism to Christianity.
Do you think it's possible for you at times to actually visualize what life was like here?
I think it was the same, because at Jesus' time there was also political
strife?
Yeah, between the Romans and the Jews. Who wants the power?
Today, this family is part of a frustrated, diminishing Christian community in Jerusalem.
Why don't you think the Israelis want to share the capital?
Of course they don't want to share because they believe that Jerusalem is only for the Jews. Where are we for our religion? Jesus walked in every corner. This land is sharing, and it should be sharing for both sides. Israeli people and Palestinian people. I am not against the people of Israel. No, no. I have too many friends, too many families living together, visiting each other. And both sides we need for peace, a true peace.
Over the last 2 years, suicide bombings by Muslim extremists aimed at killing Jews have led to Israeli roadblocks all around the city. The roadblocks prevent many Palestinians, Muslim and Christian, from coming to the Old City from outside. And so on Easter at Hanya's house, they eat the cookies and celebrate, but it has become a small, subdued event. Family members who cannot get past the roadblocks are missing. So is Hanya's sister's husband. He was killed in one of the suicide bombings on a Jerusalem bus. This family feels victimized by Muslim extremists and persecuted by the Israelis. That same night, the Siebenbergs are having a cocktail party. 4 stories above the 3,000-year-old ruins that Theo Siebenberg has been excavating. The guests are a mix of politically influential Israelis and American Jews.
You don't ask a Jew about Jerusalem. It's in the same league as the Ten Commandments. You don't ask why thou shalt not kill. You don't ask why, because it's obvious. You don't ask why.
They are proud to be in this house with its history downstairs. But when you mention the Palestinian history here...
We can go back to Neolithic man. Maybe this all belongs to dinosaurs. I don't know who originally lived here. That may not be the issue. The issue is what has happened in this city in this century and who has cared for it lovingly. The Jews have done this, and regrettably, the Arab population has not done this in the city. I wish they had. It would be a different world. Maybe if they had the same feeling of uniting the heavenly and the earthly Jerusalem that the Jews have, they would feel differently about it. But this is not an equal, I saw it, you saw it, we both have hold of it, let's split it 50-50. It just isn't that way. To the Palestinians who are here, we say how lucky you are. For the first time, you have respectable health care, your garbage is cleaned up, this is a beautiful city to live in. My Lord, if I were an Arab or a Palestinian living in the old city of Jerusalem, I would consider myself immensely fortunate for what the Jews have brought here.
One morning before dawn, we were out on the Via Dolorosa. There wasn't a soul to be seen. Suddenly, a man we didn't know opened a door and began a wild-sounding sermon at the empty city. Prepare yourself to meet your Lord, he said. What are you going to tell your God? All your gold, all your building, all your materials, nothing will help you on Judgment Day. He went on for about 5 minutes. Why are you killing each other just because one is called Jew, another Muslim, another Christian? All of you have one God, and you should be God-fearers. We did not know his name or his religion, whether he was mad at us or simply mad. But these are the words which have rung down through the centuries in this city. All of us will die, and we have to face God. What are we going to tell God when we face him? I'm Peter Jennings. Good night from Jerusalem.